Okay, I'm going to start over on our little webinar on Alexa because we had some technical difficulties last week when we first tried that. And so now I'm just going to redo it and go through it a little quicker. So I'm Dennis Hinkamp. I'm at Utah State University. I'm sort of a multimedia person, even though I started life as a writer, editor. I've been doing I don't know, 360 cameras and drones and all kinds of gadgets for, 15 years now. And I just kind of started getting interested in this a couple years ago. When Alexa first came out, I was one of the beta testers, and I bought one. And I kind of just really started looking into, well, what can extension do with these? These is one of the I think this is called the Alexa Show, which has a little screen on it. It's kind of one of my favorite ones, but you can get the little puck size ones or the standalone towers that have really good sound. But just some of the basic things you can do besides sit there and ask it silly questions all day. You can connect it to your Outlook account, and you can say, Alexa, what's on my calendar?
Your next 4 events are: on Monday, December 23rd, there's annual leave approved. December 23rd, 2019, 8 o'clock MST to December 27th, 2019, 1700 hours MST at 8 a.m. on Monday, December 23rd.
Alexa, stop. Or Alexa, weather. Alexa, weather.
Currently, in Logan, it's 22 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, you can expect just a few clouds in the sky with a low of 12 degrees.
You're probably glad you're not here. So I started looking around for what I could do with a little travel funds I had, and thought, maybe there's somebody out there who teaches Alexa skills. And to my surprise, there's a very large conference that's called Voice Conference. And it turned out there's 5,000 attendees, 350 workshops, and it was just pretty amazing to the depth of voice activated devices have come. And this is not just Alexa and the Google Go and Siri and all those. It's people are doing this because voice activated phone services. You call your hospital, or you call AAA, you run into voice recognition issues. So I had a hard time convincing people that this was really going to be great because it was in Newark. And so whenever I said I was going to Newark, I of course got more and more jokes. But really, Newark is a pretty cool place. This was out in front of my motel, and I just like to say, how cool is that to have a Department of Well-Being? So why are we doing voice skills anyway? Or is it just completely lazy? We can't even keyboard into Google. Well, in one way, yes, it is. It is easier, but I think if you think it through a little bit, you'll see that a lot of it can go help our aging population, people with disabilities. You're just walking around the kitchen, you got grease all over your fingers. You don't want to go to your computer or have to wash your hands before you go to the computer. Anyway, there's plenty of things that you can do with it, or that we just are looking at as a novelty right now. So what is extension doing, which was the purpose of putting on this little webinar? Well, for USU, we've got 3 things going on now. We have Alexa play USU extension. Alexa, play USU extension.
Welcome back to Utah State University.
And this just goes to a compilation of our gardening podcasts. You can kind of see that.
Hi, this is Dan Drost, Utah State University.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, play remote work radio.
Winter is a tough time.
Welcome back to Remote Work Radio.
And just another one of our podcasts that we have for a specific program that we have called Remote Rural Online Initiative. So anyway, those are some of the things that we're doing with extension. And how did I do these? I'm not much of a programmer. So when I turn that off, I'm not much of a programmer, but there are some templates out there. And this is probably the one URL that you want to write down. It's blueprints@amazon.com. And you can kind of plug and play in the one that's called University. It's designed to do lectures for classes, but what I did was connect it to a podcast that we created. One is for gardening and the other one is for remote work radio. And this is kind of go to the skills page that we have. That's what it looks like when you have your Amazon account set up. And all you really need to do to set one of these up is an RSS feed. If you don't know what an RSS feed is, ask any of your web guys. It just means it's something that pushes out information. It's often just publications, but in this case, it's a podcast. And so I use Libsyn, which is a very inexpensive podcasting platform. And you can see the gardening libsyn.com/RSS. That's what you send to Amazon to get your podcast set up. And this is what it looks like on the skills page of Amazon.com. And it gives you the keywords that you have to activate your podcast or your Alexa skill, which is one of the things you have to kind of think about. You want to get words that are easy to remember and easy to say. I was a little bit surprised that USU works out pretty well because it does sound a little hard to recognize. And some of the other voices out there, like I said, Alexa has been the front runner, but we're also talking about podcasts, audiobooks, flash briefings. There's all sorts of little short ones out there. One of the ones I like that you want to try if you're around a device is say, Alexa, make me smarter, which just comes up with little tips, or Alexa, tell me something weird, which is another kind of does the strange news story of the day. So we've been doing pretty well with just these 1 to 3 minute gardening podcasts. People kind of have a false impression that a podcast has to be this long drawn out thing, but I think more and more people just want these little bits of information that they can use while they're standing around the kitchen waiting for the toast to come up. Lots of other devices out there. Again, Amazon is saturating the market. They've got the show, and they're talking about putting them into glasses, a ring, which is kind of hard to believe, something that small, embedded in watches, Echo earbuds. You probably have seen the ad with a guy with headphones walking around talking to Alexa. I don't know, maybe people get used to this, but I also think it's kind of weird, people just walking around and seemingly talking to themselves. Of course, they're already doing it with their earbuds and phones. And Amazon has so many skills now that I think it's actually getting to be too many to choose from. It wasn't that long ago when everybody wanted their own app and extension, and then pretty soon we got so many apps that they were getting lost on their phone. Now I think the same thing's going to happen with Alexa skills, and we're going to have to be a little more strategic and pick ones that people really want and can really use. The growth of the speakers is still going really strong. If you haven't got one, you'll probably get one for Christmas because they're pushing them out pretty heavy, and really you don't have to use the voice skills for everything. You can just use them to listen to music. Most of them are pretty good speakers. Or, but the question that always comes up is, should I be afraid of these devices? Are people spying on us? Well, yes, and you should be, but on the other hand, we're already have lost any pretense of privacy in the world now. So I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, look at what's going on now. You get into a stranger's car that you found on your smartphone, an Uber or an Airbnb. You go to a stranger's house, or you let strangers in your house to rent it out. A lot of these things we would have thought were crazy 10 years ago. What is the evolution of artificial intelligence? Well, we've always had speech to text, I should say. Speech to text was the original dictation that secretaries had to learn to do. Now it's just gotten much, much better. If you remember your first voicemail to text on your phone, it was really horrible, and lots of us shared the stupid outcomes. Same way with YouTube. We used to hire people to transcribe YouTube closed captions, but now the closed captioning within YouTube has gotten so much better, and like most things with AI, they're just going to keep getting better. Should I be afraid? I think I addressed that. Does it get it wrong? Yes, but it does not pass it along, it learns. And one of the examples of why this is not just kind of a silly thing is there's a story in our local radio station about a guy who went up into the mountains here. If you're familiar with Utah, we have a lot of mountains and snow. And he went up there sillily by himself and got in a little accident and needed some help to get out. And in the process of his fall, he broke the face of his phone, and then he couldn't dial the number. And luckily, he had enough wits about him to remember that he had Siri on his Apple phone and was able to speak the number and call for emergency services. So without voice activity, who knows, he would have froze to death or had a very torturous long walk. Challenges for marketing are that now we're so used to having a web presence and logos and visual identity on our publications and websites. Now we're going to have to come up with a kind of sonic signature, something that people hear and they say, oh yeah, that's something coming from Iowa State or something coming from Utah State. And just like our web pages that we keep preaching that you have to put up fresh content for people to come back, it's going to be the same thing with audio devices, and we're going to have to start doing radio again is what I keep telling people. Most of their staffs 20, 25 years ago had a person dedicated to radio programming, farm radio. Now I think it's coming back, and we're going to just be doing it in podcasts or little publications that are going to be read to people on their devices. What kind of voice? This is the thing I think you're going to watch over the next maybe as short as 5 years. It's going to change from having that kind of robotic sound. Even Alexa has sort of a fake female voice as its primary way of speaking to you. But as we go along, you're going to be able to choose your voice. There's software already I've seen demoed that can, if you talk to it for about 40 minutes, reading a series of sentences to get all the different sounds, it can recreate your voice for anybody's device. And so, or maybe everybody wants Morgan Freeman to be on their Alexa device. It's going to be pretty easy to do. The other thing is, do you want your voice to have empathy? I mean, imagine that you're calling your doctor for your blood test. You don't want this robotic voice or the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice telling you what your blood results are, especially if they're bad. So I think you're going to see this change really quickly. Companies are going to be using the voices of their own employees in their answering machines, and you're barely going to be able to tell that it's not them. Okay, this is a little bit out in the weeds for voice activated devices, but not really. One of the things I learned at the conference was about the 3-word addresses. So as hard as it might sound to believe, there's a group of people in England, I believe it is, developed this. So every 3 square meters of the world has a 3-word address. And if you think about, if you're going to talk to a device, it's a lot more precise than if you just said, go to the Utah State University campus, because it's a big campus and our buildings are far apart, and most of us can't even remember what the addresses are to our buildings. But if you have these 3-word address, go to that URL I had. Let me see, let me get back there. Copy down that URL and look up something, your own house or your office, and it'll zoom in and it'll give you those 3 words. I found it kind of mind-blowing. So just my building is Clay Mint Fool. I mean, how silly is that? But kind of memorable. And if I delve deeper, this is the actual building where I am on campus. And I tried to kind of hover on one of the squares that would be above my office on the 4th floor, and it's solved best brain. Again, and that kind of, isn't that kind of fun to be able to remember that? And you could start putting that on your business cards. And I think it's a way of the future. If an ambulance, emergency vehicle of any kind needs to get to an address, they can know whether the person is in trouble in the bedroom or in the backyard or in the front yard or in the garage, just by if people know that address. All right. So lastly, I put together several of those devices and have had a little debate. I hope you don't take offense. If I can get the volume up on it. This is, I'm not making a pitch for or against climate change. I just thought it was a fun way to demonstrate this.
Global warming and climate change are terms for the observed century scale rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system and its related effects.
Climate change, a change in global or regional climate patterns, in particular a change apparent from the mid to late 20th century onwards and attributed largely to the increased levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide produced by the use of fossil fuels.
Climate change is a change in the statistical distribution of weather patterns when that change lasts for an extended period of time, that is, decades to millions of years. Climate change may refer to a change in average weather conditions, or the time variation of weather around longer-term average conditions. Climate change is caused by factors such as biotic processes, variations in solar radiation received by Earth, plate tectonics, and volcanic eruptions.
Sorry, I don't have the answer to that question.
Checking on that.
Okay, you get the idea. There's a variety of talking devices, and they get their information from different places. So you can ask them the same question, and you'll get different answers if it's not just a fact like how many ounces are in a cup. So that's about all I got. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties last time. I'd say that there's time for questions, but I'm not doing this live. So thanks for listening to the replay of this.